Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where I talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about Revival Season 1, Episode 8. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So, we rewind to 2 years ago, and we had this interesting conversation between M and her mom, because her mom's kind of co-signing her going off to college and knows, like, because M's worry is, like, I don't want dad following me up there and dragging me back just in case anything goes wrong. But whereas, like, her dad and Dana were so very overprotective, her mom was like, no, you're strong, you're special, like, you're my miracle child, so I know, like, how strong you are. So her mom was a lot more okay with her independence. I am curious if that was roughly around the time of the accident, because that's something we still don't have clarity on. Because once again, M blames herself, but Dana also blames herself. So why do they both feel at fault for whatever happened, the accident that led to the mom's death? There's probably a little bit more to it, but we'll get to that. But at the same time, we have Jesse and Rose arguing, because apparently the moment it introduced the plot element of Rose's, basically she inherited her mom's land. The land is in her name, and if Rose takes up residence outside of tribal land, then she forfeits the land and it goes to the government. So that's what this is all about. That's why I feel like I wonder. That's what my thinking has always been, that the governor has had some role to play in all of this, because I feel like there's got to be someone powerful and higher up enough to really, like, I don't know, because the way they're making it seem like in the episode that it's something personal with the blame of it all, but we'll get to that in a second. But I'm still got my eye out on the governor, because she co-signed so much of what Wayne wanted, and she won't back down. Like she won't hear anything else, even when Abraham tries to, like, talk her out of stuff. But, like, her reluctancy to, like, hear him out or anything, like, her stance in this makes me feel like she's got to be involved. But like I said, we'll have to wait to see. But Rose wanted to leave. She wanted to go to Chicago. She wanted to kind of have her own life, because for her, it's like there's nothing here for her. And for her, it's like keeping that land is just one more thing that keeps her bound here. So it's kind of like, let's let this go. But Jesse doesn't want to let it go, because it's the last tie they have to Rose's mom. And I think it's kind of interesting how that works out. Like, obviously the mother situation between, like, the Black Deer family and then the Cypress family, and how those families are intertwined. Funny enough, because they were, like, M and her mom was there when Jesse and Rose had their argument. But either way, we also find out Rose and May were a thing, which I was like, oh, so that's your motivation in all of this. Like, you and Rose, in fact, you were going to leave together, start a life together. And I was like, interesting, because, like, especially when the episode progressed, I was like, at no point has, at least on screen, you think they would have, or would have come up in conversation, especially when they're talking about the Black Deer case present day, that, like, nothing ever came up between May and Dana. But it's like, you have to consider, too, it is 2008, so they were probably keeping it on a low key. I mean, once again, it's not perfect even in 2025, but even back then, you had even less reason to come out. So, because it's like, it's still 2008. It still wasn't probably the easiest time for anyone to come out. People struggle with that at different points in time, depending on your family and your circumstances. So, but yeah, they were going to start a new life, and she went to get money that she had stashed at her house, but her dad caught her, and we don't know what those final conversations were. It sadly probably was an argument, and she just bailed. Like, I don't think he co-signed it even in that moment, but we'll never know what happened. And I think that's probably where a lot of Jesse's regret is. Probably, like, he probably wishes there's so much he could have said in that moment. But I mean, I don't know. We don't get to see that conversation, and we see her at the bus stop, and then a car picks her up, and you're like, and that's when it happens. So we follow the investigation from 2 years ago. Now that she's gone missing, she's been going for 3 days. Jesse's the one that's pushing for it, and it seems like Dana's the only one really actively working on the case, because, like, her and Jesse have history, we're friends. So it's like, I'm gonna do this for you and look into it. It's not until she ends up finding evidence, because ultimately Brent ends up revealing like, yo, like she bought the Chicago ticket, Rose did, but it was never scanned. So it's like she never made it to the station to, leave. And so that made Dana check out the bus stop and then ended up finding something of Rose. And it's kind of like, right, it's no longer a missing person, it's a murder investigation. We also got some insight into Brent as well. Like the moment he was on the phone talking with his mom, he's like, yeah, my mom's sick. I was like, that's your motive right there. His mom was sick and he needed the money. That was his motivation to get mixed up in whatever this was. It's real sad too how everything kind of went so quickly with Jesse being thrown under the bus. Obviously him being the prime suspect. The moment like they bring up the whole, oh, him and Rose were having an argument, then you add in the motive being the land. Like that was kind of like, oh, if she leaves, the land goes up. So it's like, right, you'll never have any claim to the land. So that probably led to, the murder and stuff like that. But the real kick in the teeth is later on when they go back to go through the Black Deer residence, and then you're like, this time they're definitely going to find evidence, and they do. It's like Rose's shirt. I was like, it's definitely Brent, because Wayne was jumping down Dana's throat. We'll get to that in a second, but he's like, we should go back. Brent's the one who made a point that we should go back. I was like, of course he did, because he's planted evidence. So I was like, interesting. You could already read the tea leaves in that moment. I mean, once again, it helps with the hindsight that we know present day that Brent was, mixed up in all of this. And now it's like him pushing, because he kept, even when Jesse was about to get interrogated, he was pushing to be in the interrogation room with Dana, because he was probably hoping to try and steer things. Because once again, it's about trying to find out how much people know and what they know, because that's why he wanted to interview Ibrahim, because, well, he didn't see Ibrahim like there when he shot Dana and Aaron. So, but circling back really quickly to that conversation between Wayne and Dana, we see why the Black Deer case is such a complicated thing for them, because for one, he couldn't have a civil conversation with her in his office. Like, they already had bad blood. They've had bad blood probably for a while. Like I said, I think I brought this up in a previous episode, or maybe I'm bringing it up now. Do forgive me. But I think their mom was the mediator between them, because they butted heads so much because they're so much alike. And maybe their mom, Em and Dana's mom Patty acted as a mediator. And without her there, their issues just got worse. But I mean, to be fair, it's like she was still around when early days of the Black Deer investigation. So it's probably always been that way. And, especially at work, I think it's the stress of you're the sheriff, and then on top of all of that, you have the situation of your daughter is basically making a public statement to like reporters that Jesse's no longer a suspect, because she's like, I don't think Jesse did it. Like, oh, what's his only thing he's guilty of? Like having an argument with his daughter. Like, yeah, does that seem reminiscent? But Wayne was so like, he's the one that's all about like, we need to shut this case down, because it's such a, from a publicity standpoint, it's bad, because it makes them look bad when it's like, oh, so you're not going to solve a indigenous woman's like murder. Like the optics of that look bad. So but also just like in general, you don't want any case lingering. You want to shut it down, because the longer it goes on, the more it looks bad upon the department. Like I said, plus you add in the indigenous angle to it, where some people probably make the argument like that probably wasn't even a concern, because sometimes that would go down where like something happens and a case will be so dismissed because, hey, it's not, sadly, it's not a white person in particular. It's not a white girl. So I think that argument probably could have been made, especially at that time. But yeah, I think all that just pushes Wayne to be like, yo, we got to solve this. Like, there's an easy answer in front of it. It's like he wasn't willing to listen to Dana, because he was like, your gut. He's all about like, no, we need evidence. We have proof. But it's like, there is also instincts too. Like, so her gut feeling, her instincts could have led you to some evidence, but he was just so quick to be so dismissive because he's the one that thinks like, oh, like, Dana, what are you talking about? Like, because I think a lot of times I feel like he doesn't see her as a fellow officer. He sees her as his daughter. That's always probably been like, maybe she's been a screw up or something like that, and he can't remove his lens, like looking at her through the lens of a father rather than, and that line blurs between boss and father so much, right? That's just all I can think of. It was just very not cool. And like I said, he made a point to like do that in front of the entire precinct. It's like you could have brought her into your office to have a calm conversation about it, but it's like, no, you had to raise your voice. It's like a very dick move on your part. Which I think he is kind of recognizing, at least. He's still very dickish now, but I think he recognizes how much of a tool he can be and has been in those moments. So he's trying to be better, at least. But because of the evidence that Brent planted, Jesse got arrested. And now that also plays into why May shows up being like, yo, is that just another tribal person you're trying to like get, or like oh, you're so quick to want to shut this down, so you're quick to like frame and blame a tribal person, so. And I think that also plays into why Dana had such an issue with May, because she was like, you're just here for a headliner. Like, I thought, and who knows what May might have reported, and it might have made the department, made Dana look bad. We don't really know, but it could have potentially happened, especially with her being a reporter. She could have like blasted the department, and it kind of looked bad upon her. And maybe that I can only assume that's why Dana feels the need to not listen to May when she was there trying to like warn her in the hospital room and try to be like, yo, listen to me. But she was like, no, I can't trust you. It's like, because I think they've had such a probably tumultuous relationship ever since then, because May was taking out all her frustrations about how the case with Rose was playing out, and also the Jesse of it all, because she doesn't know later on that Dana actively let Jesse go. So I think for her, she probably like spent a lot of time like taking a lot of her frustrations out on Dana potentially. So, and I think it just kind of led to them not realizing like, right, we both want the same thing. We're both on the same side. It just led to, I think, just this animosity between each other. I wonder, does no one know outside of the police department that Dana let Jesse go? Because she had him dead to rights and was asking him to turn himself in, but he was like, no, I can't do that. My Rose is gone. Why am I going to stick around? Like, I don't think, because he even said like he came back because it ate away at him for like 2 years. But we'll get to that because there's a little bit more to that. But he left because Dana gave him the opportunity to. And it's because Dana had already been like, yo, this is where he is. He's in this direction. So some officers were already in that direction. And one saw her and was like, wait, you let him go? And so word probably got back to Wayne. But they probably never publicized that. So probably May doesn't know. Or maybe didn't find out until later on that Dana let him go, maybe. So, because why would the police department have that information out there? Because you wouldn't want that out there, because it's once again going to add to your incompetence. So it's that, especially if Dana was already suffering a lot of scrutiny publicly because of all that. So that would just add more fuel to the fire. So they probably just kept that low key, and that just add more fuel to Wayne's issues with Dana, and in his mind, her incompetence and failures as an officer. I should also talk about the fact is that one angle that Dana was investigating was there is these letters of Rose's that she was communicating with someone known as Bear, and it's not till looking through some photos and the necklace and stuff like that that she pieced it together that Bear was Blaine. And Blaine says what was going on between him and Rose wasn't like that. He didn't view her like that because Dana's coming at it from like, oh, you're the creepy older dude hitting on like a younger woman. But he was like, no, like she was something else. And we never got to fully explore that because that's when Jesse got arrested. So because they had Jesse, like, I don't know if she ever bothered going back to him, like, interrogate Blaine. I guess it kind of just got sidelined afterwards and just became, like, a moot point because she probably couldn't investigate the case anymore because it's like, well, Jesse's the guy. He's on the run. That's all there is to it. Then we cut to 2 years later, but it's specifically 2 months before Revival Day, and we see May has continued her work, and so she's asking the bowling team about Brent. I don't know what. I guess she spent that 2 years investigating every cop. Once again, that probably also led to her probably having animosity towards everyone because she didn't know who in the department to really trust. And so at that point, she finally narrowed it down to Brent. That he's on this bowling team, which we heard a little bit about that early in the episode. But then when she asked the person about it, it's like, okay, the night that Brent didn't show up for bowling, it's the same night that, like, it was the night before they found the evidence that, condemned Jesse. So she started looking into it. She started talking to Uncle Don about some of that stuff too, about like, okay, so the fact is, and then she ends up reiterating this to Jesse later on, where it turns out when she looked deeper into it, after doing that, like the next day, Brent went into the hospital, 10 G's paid off his mom's treatment fully. So it's like how, and he was just talking to Dana about like him and his twin brother scraping by of trying to get paid. Well, I said just, but it was like early in the episode, but that was 2 years ago. It's interesting too that they bothered to bring up the whole twin thing. So his twin brother must pop up in some shape or form for them to even bother referencing that. Like, why would that even be a necessary detail unless you're going to do something with that? Because, really quickly, too, before they, confirmed that was a thing, I thought that was complete and utter bullshit. When he was, on the phone, I thought that was, connected to all of this, and he was covering, I'm talking to my mom when I'm actually talking to someone else. But it's like, no, it seems like it was real. So, either way, May tracked down Jesse, who's just kind of been living his life as a guy named Justin, and she brings up everything to him about Brent and being like, I don't think, she's like, Brent's not the one that killed Rose, but I know that he's the one that framed you for it. So he's connected to all this, even if he's not the one that killed Rose. I think that's also when they bring up the vehicle. I think that comes up in conversation too, maybe. Or maybe that comes back up present day. But either way, Jesse comes back to Wasu to deal with Brent, but Brent saw him tailing him and immediately killed him. And May realized who the John Doe was because she looked into the casket when he was at the about to be cremated. And then that's when Revival Day happened and he came back in the process of being burned, so. And that's where we are present day. And it's still trying to piece it all together of, okay, so Moore Creek being special as it is, what's the correlation and connection between all of this? I forgot who they said the texts were between. Was it between Aaron? I think it was Brent and Aaron, I believe, about a particular car model. That's the one that it was also in Aaron's files that what's his face Jesse stole. And then they bring up the Blaine of it all being Bear. And then also M remembering when she was murdered, it was someone wearing that symbol. And like I said, it looked like they were wearing it looked like, just from what we saw, it was like a skull mask, like a very an animal skull or something like that. So I'm like, who was that? Because they're initially thinking it was Blaine, and to the point Jesse's rushing off to do it, but Dana's like, we don't know if he did it, so we can't just go, because it turns out there's been history between the Blaines and the Black Deers, because the Abels rather, because apparently they've always tried to buy off the land but have never been able to, so that kind of gives Blaine motive. But he did seem, but it could have all been bullshit. He did seem sincere when it came to Rose, but who knows what that dynamic really was. The only people who know the truth of that matter will be Blaine and Rose. But either way, Dana's like, let me handle this properly. But then you have Uncle Don talking Jesse down, because it's also May being like, yo, the last time you tried to go off on your own, it literally got you killed. But he's like, I'm a reviver. But it's that's just going to add more fuel to the fire. you can't, be slowed down or whatever. And what's that going to do? It's not going to help clear your name or anything like that. It's not going to get justice for Rose. That's even what Uncle Dom was saying. Your path of vengeance won't bring her back and won't ease her soul. So don't go down this route. So when he goes to Blaine's and he's about to slit Blaine's throat, and that creature speaks to him, I was like, that's the irony, isn't it? That the creature in there belongs to Blaine. I mean, not Blaine, to Jesse. I was like, interesting. And so when he lets it out, I was like, don't. And I was like, especially because he finds the car in the junkyard and pops the trunk, and there's sadly Rose's body. At first I was like, is he going to go before he's able to confirm to them, yo, the car is here in the junkyard? But just when he brings her body back, and it's like, now it's kind of that thing of, I can find, it's like a spirit that's restless and has unfinished business. That's what the revivers are. So it's like, now that he's done what he needs to do, that he kind of brought peace by finding the truth about Rose and kind of bringing her home finally, he's able to finally let go and disappear. So it also confirms what I said last episode, because Wanda said, that's not mine, that's not mine. If it's not your quote-unquote angel or entity, whatever you want to call it, Blaine calls it an angel, if it's not yours, it hurts you. But if it is yours, and then you come in connection with it and you're finally able to kind of let go and be at peace, that's when you're finally, I guess, able to move on to the afterlife. I don't know if these things, whether they look like aliens, but are just some, they might be like, oh, this is like this eldritch looking form that angels have in this. Who knows what this is? So the big question then becomes, how did Blaine get his hands on it? I'd assume it has to be because he told M, he was like, we both saw that light, so he must have followed the light and found that creature and locked it up since then. Because obviously these things only seem to hurt revivers, because it never hurt him. So it probably doesn't do anything to a human, but if it's not the right reviver that's connected to it, it hurts them. If not, because we don't know what happened to Wanda. Is she still alive, or did she just completely die from this? I'd assume she's completely dead. And I brought the question up too, what happens to her associated creature? Does it immediately disappear? I swear there's something I've watched that has a similar premise where it's there's two sides of the same thing, and if I don't remember what it was, and it's going to nag me, but it's almost like these two things have to come together in a similar dynamic as the revivers and these things, but it's the moment the moment one disappears, so does the other. It's if one dies, like I said, Wanda dies, I think hers is dead, so you don't have to worry about it wandering around aimless. It disappeared, sadly, but I don't know. Like I said, there's something I remember watching that has something similar, and I just can't for the life of me remember what it was. So we find out at the end, the one that grabbed, I don't know if she was already dead or whether they ended up killing her later. It's unclear at this point. But the person who grabbed Rose was Aaron. But I don't know if he's the one that ended up killed her then and there, or was she just knocked out and then she was killed later on by Blaine. Because part of me was wondering, was Blaine completely unaware that she was in the car? But I'm like, you never bothered checking that car when it randomly showed up there? Because that didn't he, because his alibi to, well, no, his alibi to Dana when it came to M's murder was he was heading that direction to pick up a car. So we never got his alibi from back then. He said he was wandering heading to Myrtle Beach, but I wondered, did Blaine not have any idea what was going on there? Was something else at play there? Because he's definitely not the religious person, because he was just a mechanic then. So it's in some point in time, I was about to say, what would have changed in that time frame is I guess meeting that angel is what changed. Because we didn't see Blaine until after the revival day had already happened. So I guess running into that angel is what changed him into the very evangelical wrathful, like gods smiting the demons type of thing, because he wasn't like that, because like he just seemed like a regular mechanic so back then. So I think specifically Revival Day on, when he found that thing, it's what shifted it, because he probably let a lot of that go, but then he felt like, oh, this was my chance to restore the good Abel name and show, like, you know, right, I was something special with like the stigmas on my hand and yada yada yada, so on and so forth. That I think that's the real shift. He just seemed like he was just living potentially a regular life. Like I said, I don't know if he just never bothered checking the car or whether he was a part of all of this. Because Brent wasn't responsible for her death, but he was responsible for covering it up. And obviously he tried to kill Aaron and Dana to kind of keep it all hush hush. So, oh, he also was responsible for killing Jesse. The only problem was Jesse didn't stay dead. So, and then finally we have the whole situation with Rhodey. At the moment he came back up, I was like, he's like, oh, I escaped. I was like, bullshit. I was like, there's got to be more. But he was like, oh, let's leave. Like, we could go. And she's like, no, I can't. I'm on the verge of figuring this out. So he's like, and he's staring in the distance or whatever. And he's like, can we meet up? I was like, oh, it's a trap. Because I wondered, did they promise they'd let him go? But it's like, would they really? Because the whole point is to gather up all revivers. They said, like, we will let other revivers go if it means catching M. But because we'll keep catching and capturing them for as long as M is still out there. It was also interesting, too, because we saw Tyler this episode. He ended up... Last time we saw him, I forgot to talk about it last episode, is he infiltrated that place. So I wonder, did they all, like... I'd assume the plan was to get the Angel to kind of go in there, or maybe they blow the place up, or I don't know. Like, maybe they already planted the explosives or whatever, because I'm like, the fact is that we never cut back to that storyline now, but maybe we'll cut back to it next episode or whatever, because, like, half the episode was, 2 years ago and 2 months ago, and then, like, the back half of the episode is just about present day, so. But the episode ends with M getting taken, which sucks because, she already felt betrayed because of the whole Aaron thing, and now the other person she had feelings for, Rhodey, ended up betraying her too. Especially like when she felt kind of alone and had no one. He was that person, and for that one person you kind of got close to betray you like that sucks. Truth be told is he would never been in that position in the first place if your dad hadn't like been a dick about all this. So it kind of goes back to his douchebaggery. So very, very interesting developments. Some answers, but still more questions. We'll ultimately have to wait to see where the next episode ends up taking us going forward with all of this. But really, that's all I want to talk about. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day and goodbye.